happened in Germany when these things were ramping up, like happens all over the world. There's that famous, saying, whether it's true or not, it may be more of a fable of it. I can see that it's true that while the cattle cars were heading to the death camps and going by villages with churches, the pastors would say, "Sing louder," because the Jews were crying out for help. We've learned as a people that most likely we're not going to get help from anybody, that we're on our own. That's why it's so important, the state of Israel, but it shouldn't be like that, especially amongst the church. So will you remain silent, or will you take action? And I would call you, what can you do? Well, you can speak out like we're doing to people. You can have these conversations. You can shut down when people start to get anti-Semitic. Start talking to them about it. And something you really can do is do not equate this thing or equate Zionism and the anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism, same thing. Stop believing that they are different things. They're being used in the same way to speak out in a way, hatred against Jewish people in a way that's politically and socially acceptable. Jordan, talk about how the responsibility of the press here.
Yeah, so we've seen these reports that have come out really quick about Israel shooting people providing aid, and then the official retraction from the Washington Post, people condemning Israel instead of Hamas on the October 7th attacks for the response. Just this rhetoric that we see is spreading like wildfire. It's evil, and the media, a lot of media, seem to be playing into it. So it's time to be intellectually honest as media. It's time to confront our own biases and support the truth, because there is a truth to this, and a lot of people don't want to face it. So I think as far as government officials go, we saw the press conference, and we saw Governor Polis talking about how a little bit of light can overcome the darkness, and he prays that we are radiating light. When God does a work, it's usually when people are humbled, and I really think that there's an opportunity to turn this around for this country. We heard Rabbi Mark Soloway talk about, we've seen this coming, and I believe we have seen this coming. And he also said it's time. They also said that today at the press conference, it's time for faith leaders to take action. And I want to put a call out for all the faith leaders to take action, stand up. We can still honor free speech and stand against this hate.
Yeah, it's really scary how pretty much basically silent after October 7th the church is here. Maybe there was a mention once or twice, I'm not saying to the pastor, but overall silence on this, and the Jewish community is watching. And what are we going to do? I thank the government officials. We read statements from the mayor's office, city council, county commissioners. Statements are great. They're awesome. They're elected officials here, and words mean something, and spiritually too. But what about policy? And what about actual events and standing up, not to just do things behind the scenes to support the Jewish community, but to do things publicly and to come out day after day saying, not in our town. And that's what we really need to do. The press needs to do that. The government officials, the church, and you as an individual. Again, what can you do? Do you know Jewish people? Speak to your neighbors. Do that. Even speak to Christian neighbors. Talk about this. Why is this happening? Why are people either willing to be so vocal about this now, like it doesn't mean anything, or just be silent, be complicit? Why are you willing to do that? Check your own spirit on that, because here's the deal. We always know it's going to turn to violence. People say it's just words, but now it is turning to violence. A bunch of Jewish people were lit on fire the other day in Boulder by someone who was living in Colorado Springs. Remember that all that has to happen for evil to prevail is for good men and women to do nothing. And you know what? I'm not talking about solving this around the world. I'm talking about solving it in our town. Jordan Baldwin, thank you so much for being on The Peak today and talking about this.
Thanks for having me. It was a great opportunity.
Please stand up, folks. We're not doing this just because we're Jewish, but you know what? We're like canary in the coal mine. We sense this a little bit more than others. We sense it quicker. And we want to say this has happened to us throughout history. Let's not have it happen again. Now, Jim Miller and the Peak Rants, and Jim is ranting about labeling hate where there is no hate.